sermon. Last week, Jonathan said that he was going to talk at the very beginning for about 10 minutes. And I knew that my sermon was going to be at least half hour, so I quickly ran to my office and I chopped off 10 minutes. And then fixed my PowerPoint and everything. And I still managed to speak for 30 minutes. So then I'm all prepared for this, thinking, okay, I got 10 minutes worth. I have to fill in a beginning and a new ending. It's going to be good. And Jonathan is not here this morning. He was supposed to preach, but he has a really bad cold. So he is not gracing us with his presence right now. Thank you, Jonathan, for staying home. And so I was like, oh yeah, I had most of it prepared. And I sat down and I did it. And I was like, oh my, it might be another half hour. I apologize in advance. Yeah. So we're back with God's kingdom of love. Just a quick recap. A couple times ago, we talked about living life beyond the surface righteousness, where we have all of our ducks in a row. We look all shiny and clean and beautiful and perfect, but our hearts are not good. That's what the Pharisees and the Sadducees are like. And Jesus is saying, you know what, I've given you righteousness here. Let's start acting it out. Let's become the kind of person who's governed by God's kingdom and filled with his love in absolutely everything that we do. And to do this, in the Sermon on the Mount, he starts addressing some very important heart issues. The first one was anger. And then he discusses lust and deceit and our inability to love very difficult people well. And we started talking about desire and how we all have these core desires inside of us. And how that desire, the fundamental motivators or the drives of our life, right? They're those things that make us do the things that we do. Desire could also be, is the longing itself. It's not the thing longed for. And we discussed how God created these desires inside of us, and they're actually good. But desire gets twisted when it's attached to things in this world or people. It may feel right for a moment, but it never, ever satisfies. It leaves our heart feeling unfulfilled and makes our heart feeling sick. Proverbs 13:12 says, hope that is deferred makes the heart sick, but a desire fulfilled is a tree of life. In God's original design, desire was meant to be fulfilled in a very intimate, transparent relationship with God. Think about it. God knew everything about them. They knew everything about God. They had no need for wearing masks. Every single desire of their heart, like worth, being known, joy, love, belonging, comfort, security, peace, goodness, recognition, approval, justice, challenge, significance, freedom, all those core desires, which people a lot smarter than me say that we have, were being met in a relationship with Father God. They had no lack. We are also meant to have this tree of life, this life-giving life inside of us. And we are also designed to operate out of it. Imagine going through your day like that. Imagine what it would be like. You wouldn't even think about what you look like, or what somebody thinks about you, or worry about what you're going to say. You would go throughout your day and you would not feel shame. You would not feel embarrassment. You would not feel guilt. You would have no worries. You would have no fear. you would have complete confidence in yourself. And you'd be totally filled with God's love and be able to operate out of that love. This is a tree of life. This is a life that God designed for Adam and Eve and for us. It's part of his original design. We were created for the daily experience of total approval, total love, total significance, total worth, total peace, total security. Now Eve stepped out of that life-giving relationship, and she tried to meet her desire without God by eating the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. And ever since then, we too have been kind of operating out of that base system, right? Where we try to get our desires, those core needs inside of us, met by things and other people. But desires are meant to be filled by God. In Psalms 37:4 it says, "Take delight in the Lord and he will give you the desires of your heart." Getting them filled any other way is a violation of love. I say that, and it sounds kind of strong, but about 3 weeks ago, when I was thinking about this, that's the exact phrase that God said to me. He said, "Renee, getting those things filled any other way is a violation of love." So we're going to be going through the rest of Matthew 5 today. I'm going to try to get through it. I will not be reading it word for word. Again, I'll be paraphrasing. But I encourage you to read, just like last time, I encourage you to read this passage during the week. But remember to read it from the lens that God is a God of love, God is a God of peace, God is kind. Like all those 1 Corinthians attributes of love, read this passage through that lens. Read the passage through the lens that Jesus died for you. So we're going to start off with Matthew 5, verses 33 to 37. And this is all about making your words clear. It's all about don't manipulating people with your words. And Jesus says this as he's sitting there and he's talking to the crowd. Remember, the crowd is made up of average Joes and Janes, people from all walks of life, just like us here. And he says this to them. "You have heard it said by your teachers, do not break your oaths, but keep your oaths you have made to the Lord. But I tell you to look at the heart of the matter and learn a better way of life. Do not promise, by God, I'll do this, or I swear on a stack of Bibles that you can trust me. Don't use your words to persuade them to do what you want." I'm going to add in here. Don't use your words to people please, or to give them false hope to get them to do what you want, or meet that inner desire you have, maybe for approval, or for love, or recognition, or belonging, or peace, or significance. Instead, simply say yes or no. Make it very clear. Anything beyond that is deceitful and it's unloving. The actual phrase in the Bible is this: let your word be yes, yes, or no, no. Anything more than this comes from the evil one. I've read this passage many times, but it was only recently, as I was meditating on it and thinking about it, that I realized that any time I was not clear, or any time I would try to let someone down gently by doing it in stages, even though I knew I was going to say no, that I was not working on God's side. I wasn't doing the things, I wasn't doing it the way that God would want me to do it. And then I started thinking, a lot of times in my own personal life, when I have felt hope deferred, it is because somebody has promised something or hinted at something that they were going to do for me, and then they haven't come through. It's been that and the fact that I have thought, oh, if I have this or I have that, then I'll be happy. I'll have this, I'll have that, I'll have security, I'll have this. And those two things have been the things in my life where the hope deferred has come in. And in my own personal life, a lot of times, those promises have been made by leaders of the church. Maybe because of my position in the church and serving so much in the church, but it has been a huge source of hope deferred for me. And I've worked through forgiveness, and I've worked through all that. But as I was thinking about it, I realized that it's not just me that struggles with this. It's just not me that's had hope deferred by the church when they promised something or said something and they haven't come through. So I stand here and I ask forgiveness on behalf of the church leaders that have hurt you. Whether it be from this particular body or another body. When things were promised, when things were said, and they did not turn out the way that it was said to you that they would. I ask you to forgive the church for the harm and the disappointment that they have caused you. That heart losing hope. And I ask you in response to not only forgive, but to lay down any bitterness and disappointment and offense so that you can move forward and so that the church can move forward. I'm not promising that we're going to be perfect, this church leadership, as we move forward. We're going to make a lot of mistakes. But we are working on our yeses being yes and our no being no. We are working on making it very clear and not manipulating others or saying things in a way that is not honoring. Moving on. Matthew 5, 38 to 42. Jesus starts talking about how we're to respond to personal injury from within God's kingdom. I think that's a beautiful follow-up from what he just said. By the way, Jesus is the smartest person that ever lived. When I read that a couple months ago, I looked at it and goes, "Oh, that's Solomon." My instant reaction was, "That's Solomon." And then I thought about it, no, it was Jesus. We just don't think of him as the smartest man that ever lived. Because he says things, and when I read it, I don't get it. I'm being honest. When God told me at the beginning of the year, you're going to preach from the Sermon on the Mount, you're going to go through the whole thing, I was like, woohoo, I know what I'm preaching. And then I read it and go, oh God. I struggle with that one. I don't know what you mean here. And he goes, that's okay. You will going to get to there. And he has been. So I'm very, very thankful because I'm finding this study very, very rich for my own personal life. So he goes on to say, you have heard it said by your teachers, eye for eye and tooth for tooth. But I tell you to look at the heart of the matter and learn a better way of life. Don't return anger for anger. Work with my love to diffuse the conflict. And then he goes on to give some illustrations. Before I do that, I'm going to give you an illustration from my own life. Because as I'm studying and I'm applying and I'm learning, I'm changing. The last 5 weeks, I have had 2 opportunities where somebody in front of me has been very, very angry. And my normal response would have been to be angry right back at them. Because both times, they hit a very core desire of my heart, which is security. So if I don't feel secure, and they're taken away by being angry, I will be angry back, or I will immediately withdraw. Those are my 2 go-tos when I feel my security being threatened by somebody being angry. Both times, the first time, this person got angry. And I immediately felt anger, but it was only for a very, very brief time, like maybe a second. And then I was able to respond in a loving way. And I was like, well, that was weird. I remember thinking that. That was weird. And then I kind of forgot about it. Until this last week when it happened again. Somebody was angry, threatening my security, and I didn't back away. Again, I did feel that very, very brief moment of anger. But I didn't entertain it. I didn't do anything. It was just there. And then immediately I responded out of love. And I go, oh, I think I'm getting this. Because I have been so intentionally working at getting those core desires filled by God in conversation with Him, in talking with Him, and asking Him how He's making me secure today, or how He's being my security today, and then letting Him give me a scripture verse, or a picture, or just saying something back, or reminding me throughout the day, I was there for you, Renee, when this happened. Because I've been getting that core need of security, intentionally going after it with Him in conversation and relationship, I'm starting to respond naturally in love. I'm so surprised by it. Although I should be, because He says that's what's going to happen. I just think it's so cool. So Jesus goes on and He gives some illustrations. And He says, for instance, if someone slaps your cheek, boldly offer your other cheek. Because your inner desire, this is me adding, because your inner desire is being filled by God, you can operate out of love. If someone wants to sue you and take your shirt, and you had that inner desire of justice filled by me, Jesus says, you know what? You can give them your coat as well. Because it doesn't matter. That inner need, inner desire is being met by Him. Or if a Roman official forces you to carry their backpack for 1 mile, offer to go a 2nd mile. For even though a soldier can force you to do this under the Roman law, if your desire for freedom is being filled by God, you would be willing to go the extra mile. If someone asks you for something or wants to borrow from you, give it to them. For if you have that inner desire for comfort being filled by me, it won't matter. Now, I'm not saying, and Jesus is not suggesting, that you become a doormat and become damaged by abuse. He's not saying that. He doesn't want you feeling helpless in a situation, or frightened, or ashamed. Nor is he giving us laws that we need to follow. He's illustrating for us that someone who is blessed and empowered in God's kingdom, we can share mercy with those that injure us. We can show love to those that hurt us, because that's what they need in the moment. They need to feel God's love and God's mercy. We get to demonstrate God's love to them. I find it interesting how many, when you read the scriptures, how many Roman people and officials were taken with Jesus. He modeled to them love. All the other Israelites, Jews, hated the Romans for what they were doing and doing to their country. And here was Jesus loving them purely out of God's love. No wonder they were so attracted to Jesus. The last bit of Matthew 5 talks about being made whole by sharing God's love with your enemies. You have heard it said by your teachers, love your neighbor and hate your enemy. But I tell you to look at the heart of the matter and learn a better way of life. Love your enemies, bless those who curse you, do good to those who hate you, and pray for those who persecute you. Because when you act out of your God-created selves, not your natural human selves, when you act out of having your desires fulfilled by God, you show yourselves to be children of a loving Father. You show yourselves to be different. People will see you, and they will see that light on the hill. They will see that there's something different about you, and that you do bring flavor to your relationships and your community. You bring something that no one else carries. Then Jesus goes on to say, the Father in heaven, he sends his blessings of sunshine and rain, not only on his friends, but also on those who disregard him, even on those who hate him. If you only love those who love you, that's nothing special. Even people with no knowledge of God can do that. But since your heavenly Father loves everyone so generously, and you live from the resources of his kingdom, keep being made whole by him to become the kind of person who loves others as he does. Next time we meet, we're going to be talking about how we can cultivate that kind of relationship of being made whole on a daily basis with him. Then Jesus says, listen, I'm not giving you new laws to measure up to. I'm bringing you a new way of life which enables you to fulfill God's law of love naturally from your heart, where it flows. It just comes and flows out of you. It's not something that we have to put laws or steps into place in our own life in order to do it. It's more of a becoming. And it's all out of relationship with him. In John 17:24, Jesus says, "My desire is that they may be where I am to behold my glory." What is Jesus' desire? There's only 2 times he uses that word desire. Both times it is spending time with us. The other one is in Luke 22:15. "I have earnestly desired to eat this Passover with you." Someone told me recently, it seems like Jesus eats a lot. He must love food. And I think I have to agree. The 2 times he wants to spend with us, one of them has to revolve around eating a huge feast and meal. He wants to spend time with us. What is it that Jesus desires? Us. Relationship.
Yeah.
So I have a question that I want you to ask Jesus while you're sitting there. And it's this: Jesus, what is it about me that makes you so desire to be with me? And we're going to be quiet for a little while. Now listen to what Jesus says. It may be a picture, it may be words, it may be a verse, it might be a line in a song, or a line in a movie. Jesus, what is it about me that makes you so desire to be with me? The next question I want you to ask is this: God, how can I take delight in you this week? God, how can I take delight in you this week? Sometimes God just surprises me by what he says. About 3 weeks ago, I had a 3-hour block of time. And I was like, yes, I'm going to sit down, I'm going to get really deep in some, I have some things I want to study out on my own, not for sermons or my Wednesday thing or anything else, just for me. And I was like, ooh, now I have like a 3-hour block of time. I get to really go deep, and I get to go do all the stuff that I love to go do. And I thought, well, maybe I should ask God what he wants me to do, because maybe he has some better idea. So I asked God. And sometimes God surprises me. And when he said, Renee, I want you to go read that novel. I'm like, God, number one, that's not even a Christian novel. I mean, it's not bad, but it's not a Christian one. Number two, I was pretty sure that I was supposed to be spending this time, in the Word and going deep. It's like, no, No, I want to meet you in that novel. And he did. Sometimes God will surprise you. Maybe he wants you to go for a walk with him. That's how he wants for you to take delight in him, where he wants to meet you. Maybe it's by reading something.